Crowley's commentary on the thing, this is highly structured. There's about 10 sections to it. And it is 3 or 4 times longer than any other card in the deck.
Hey, but like you said earlier, you do get the impression, though, when you read the book of Thoth, Crowley, the divination part is, like you say, shoved in a little corner at the end. It's like, and it's to satisfy those who really are, want to know something about the divination part.
Quick fix. Yeah, huh? It's a quick fix, isn't it? But actually, when you really want to know more, then you have to read this stuff. And then when you starting to read it, then you realize you have to read loads of other stuff to understand the stuff that he's talking about. And there's other things you find in there that you skip over that are actually quite important. So it's never ending. Thank God. It means this we'll be forever making videos on the subject because we won't run out. So let's have a bash at Crowley's commentary. This is the first part. We're not getting to the meat of the stuff, you'd think. But here goes. So here's a simple thing, which non-controversial. This card is attributed to the letter Aleph, which means an ox. But by its shape, the Hebrew letter, so it is said, represents a plowshare. Thus, the significance is primarily phallic, because the plowshare prepares the earth for fertilization, as all farmers know. So we kind of, this is the fall is the letter, it represents air, and the plowshare cuts into the earth. So we're immediately into duality here and polarities that's going on here, the maximum thing you're going to have between the two. And then he says, it is the first of the 3 mother letters, Aleph, Mem, and Shin, Aleph, Mem, and Shin, which the 3 mother letters, Aleph, Mem, and Shin, are derived from the Sefer Yetzirah, which is another massive area of things. And basically, the major arcana, they're at the center. Right at the center of that cross is yellow, red, and blue in thirds, and they are the mother letters. There's a whole, we're not going to get bogged down into the Sefer Yetzirah, but suffice it to say that the 22 major arcana correspond to the Hebrew letters, and the Hebrew letters have a number and they have a symbol and a few other things as well that we can go into, but we're not going to. We're just sticking with the fall, and there's bloody tons of stuff to go through here. So he says the 3 mother letters, Aleph, Mem, and Shin, which correspond in various interwoven fashions. This is the thing about the Aleph, Mem, and Shin. They come in a package. You can't have one without the other. Okay, they're always there. And this is the Trinity, if you like. You've got the Trinity of the supernal triangle, and you see a lot of Trinities involved in the design of the full card, which we kindly discussed in last week's video, the previous video. So these are the sets of Trinities or Triads. Because we did a video on the vital triads, didn't we, Bart?
Yes, the last pages of the book of Thoth.
The last page of the book of Thoth has the triads, and here we are on the first card of the book of Thoth, talking about triads. We've gone from 0. We haven't talked about 0 yet. We just said this is the letter. It's a mother letter, and we're into triads. So there's quite a few versions of triads. We can have fire, water, and air. Simple. Father, mother, son. Sulphur, salt, and Mercury. Rajas, Sattvas, and Tamas. These are ones that appear in particular on the fortune card, don't they? In the circle, which we discussed the other week with the Sphinx. So if you haven't watched those videos, have a look at them as well. Yes, Bob.
I do. I felt the urge to add something about the Sphinx, because we had some comments about people saying you forgot this or you forgot that. Now with the Sphinx, we've had to not mention certain things. We even said it at forehand. There's some things we just didn't have time to mention.
Yeah.
Just like the Fool as well. There is so many things that can be said about it.
Yes.
That you can't say everything, otherwise we'd be in the cinema right now.
Yeah, and it'd be, people would die of boredom probably by that as well too. We find it interesting because we're a bit geeky on these things.
Well, but listen, if people watch these videos, they must find it interesting as well.
But I'm sure they do. We have a very intelligent, erudite audience.
We have to, because I don't, and none of my friends can watch these videos.
Most people I know.
You're the only one, Paul. No, but it is. Sometimes I have friends over, even those who are into tarot cards, but in general, and then they show them my video. They have no bloody clue what we're on about. Aleph, Mem, Shin, what?
We know what we're talking about.
Yes, we do. And
even if we don't know what comes out of our mouth, what it means sometimes.
But
these trinities are incredibly important. So this is talking about zero naught. He hasn't mentioned zero naught yet, and we're already into trinities. How important these trinities are. And then the next sentence, or two sentences, I've actually highlighted in my copy here. It says, the really important feature of this card is that its number should be 0. It represents, therefore, the negative above the tree of life. So we're into the and the Ein Sof and the Ein Sof Or, which is another trinity. And we could also bring into this the Naples arrangement as well, couldn't we? Plus, we could talk about the Naught chapter in the Book of Lies. All of these things are connected into these things. And it says that the tree of life, the source of all things. I think the negative, he means the negative is the source of all things, not the tree of life here.
Well, but if you look at right now, the little bit that we've seen already, Paul.
Yes.
Then we've already seen that the Fool is the supernal triads, all three of them.
Yes.
We've seen that the Fool is the Ein Sof Or, the three veils of nothingness.
Yes.
In fact, when you see this, you think the Fool is everything but Earth.
Well, yes, because the Fool is also the father, mother, son, by definition, which is what actually happens when we discussed the what's on that card as well. You see, so it's all there before it appears.
Yeah, because in the end, Earth is a combination of
this, because there is no element Earth, as we keep on saying ad nauseum. Someday it'll sink in. So then he says, so now the Fool is the negative above the tree of life. But when we looked at analysed the picture of the Fool, we realised the Fool represents the tree of life. He then says, it is the equation of the universe. So we've gone to the universe, of course, and that card is the last tarot card in the major arcana, the Aleph and Tau, the essence. So he's united a card that technically doesn't exist at this minute, because we're only talking about the Fool. We haven't got onto anything else. And the universe is the card that does represent Earth as 32 Bis. Yes?
Yes.
So he said that without actually mentioning Earth, because it's there. And it says it's the initial and final balance of the opposites. Air in this card, therefore, quintessentially means a vacuum. Because the polarity, you could do the polarity of air as Earth, or you could do it in the negative version, which would be a vacuum, the lack of air. And we have quintessentially in there as well, which is a loaded term because it represents the 5 elements as well, and spirit. And it's the perfect essence of something as well, isn't it? So in those 3 paragraphs, small paragraphs, we have the entire system basically there. He's put it all in, and in the Sefer Yetzirah, the air is the balancing element as well between fire and water too, which is how he has that within the deck, isn't it? The fire and water at the top, the father and the mother. Well,
Well,
so
it's not water, it's a pyramid of white.
We haven't gotten to pyramid of white, have we?
But you say in his left hand is the fire and in his right the water, which I also thought, but we just heard now it's not fire and water.
No, it can be
It's
something
a pine
else.
cone and a pyramid of white.
Yes. We didn't say it's going to be easy.
Plus, as well, what I was just thinking, it is the equation of the universe. Does that mean 1 + 1 equals 0?
Naught equals 2. Yeah. This is what he's talking about right from the start. Okay. So the naught balances the 2, basically. Duality and nothingness.
You could say 0 squared equals infinity.
Could you?
I think so. If you give it some thought, tell me what you think. 0 times 0 is infinity.
We're not mathematicians. We're just tarot readers. We don't know.
Well, neither was Crowley.
Yeah. So now he's kind of set the scene for everything in the whole universe. And we established that the full card in terms of imagery is the creation, the big bang of the universe as well. So then he goes backwards in time, because it says in the medieval pack, the title of the card is La Mat, adapted from the Italian matto, madman or fool. My Italian is useless. I don't know if that's true or not.
You have to do like this, like il matto.
Il matto.
Il matto, sì.
So you get Italian lessons as well here now too, so we can add that to our list. The propriety of this title will be considered later. Then he goes on to discussing the Taoist in its terms of its Egyptian origin. Roy sort of mentioned earlier about Egypt and things. One may suppose that Mart, this card being the key card of the whole pack, really stands for Mart, or Maut, the Vulture Goddess. Okay. Vultures, symbols of air, who is an earlier and more sublime modification of the idea of Nuit than Isis. Because he mentions Mary and Isis in the description of the card, doesn't he? But now he's going back to Nuit.
But he doesn't mention that either anywhere, but you could say what you want. But generally speaking, a vulture is a symbol of death.
Yes.
When you see any film, people lost in the deserts.
Yeah, the vulture circling.
It's a bad sign, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's where the bodies are. So then he connects the vulture with creation again, you see. So this is a recurring theme in this video as the full card of creation. He says there are 2 legends connected with the vulture. It is supposed to have a spiral neck. This may, which he references to Einstein as the spiral kind of thing of the universe. And also Zoroaster in the universes, that the shape of the universe, the form of that energy, which is called the universe, is spiral. See,
where else do we see spirals?
Spirals.
The devil's card.
Yes. But also, when he's done there, have you noticed he's doubled the universe? There's 2 universes there. Okay. Because, you know, in literary, he was a literate man. In literary terms, you wouldn't use the same word twice in a sentence. So when he's using the universe there, these 2 forms of the universe that he's defining there. The shape of the universe and the form of that energy, which is called the universe, which is a spiral, the shape. I mean, because, we've all seen pictures of clusters of galaxies and things that are in spiral shapes, haven't we? And all these sort of things as well.
Yeah. So the shape of the universe is spiral, and the universe is made out of energy, and the form of that energy is also spiral.
Yes. There's 2 separate things going on there.
It's like
a
a
duality.
bowl of macaroni.
Hmm?
A bowl of macaroni. You know, the spirelli.
Macaroni. Spaghetti, I think would be more likely, wouldn't it?
The spiral macaroni.
Spaghetti, not macaroni. Macaroni is short.
Yeah, but it's spiral.
Well, you can have spiral pasta, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Of course, you have the cones that he talks about in this as well.
You think they have Hebrew alphabet soup?
I've never.
Sorry,
possibly.
continue.
It'd have to be kosher, wouldn't it?
You would think so.
Anyway.
Yes. The other legend.
He's saying there's two universes here. All right. This is the important point to make here. Okay. Because he's universe twice in the same sentence. Then he says the other legend is that the vulture was supposed to reproduce her species by the intervention of the wind. In other words, the element of air is considered as the father of all manifested existence. And of course, in his description of the Fall card in the previous video, he talks about the All Father, doesn't he? You see? It all reflects back. You've got to do this backwards and forwards.
The pyramid.
The pyramid. We'll come to that later, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, he mentions the All Father with the pyramid.
Yes, he does. Yes, you're right. Yes. Then he says there's a parallel in Anaximenes' school of Greek philosophy. I haven't studied Anaximenes, so we'll have to pass a veil over that. Someone can put a comment below. By the way, if you like the video, please give us some likes and subscribe. And there is our interesting tarot groups. Bart has one, I have one on Facebook. You're very welcome to join. I hope to see you there at some point as well. We can carry on these discussions. Right. So, yes.
And if they fancy a trip to the sea, they can always come over to Brighton and have their cards read by you live in person.
Yes, as opposed to dead in person.
That's for another video.
Right. There may well be people wishing me dead. So he says this card is therefore both the father and the mother in the most abstract form of these ideas. This is not a confusion, but a deliberate identification of the male and the female, which is justified.
By biology.
The justified is Iris is justified, Iris is justified, isn't it? And I think he's also referring to the goddess Mart, justified. Yes,
it's also one of the, because this is a discussion I've had with some people. Who was it? They wanted to make a gender-free tarot game. Now, I'm sorry, I'm getting too old for this, I think, because I found the idea hilarious.
Let's not go down that route.
But wait, one of the hermetic principles is everything has a gender.
Yes.
It can be a combination of the two, but there is always one predominant. Everything is either predominantly male or female, plus or minus, cold or warm.
Well, yes, but let's not really go there, Bart, because I don't understand this stuff anymore either.
Well, we can talk about what we know with the old-fashioned way, when
we stick to that. We'll stick to that.
Yes, exactly. But then again, old-fashioned. I think if you look at how Crowley was and how society is nowadays, it is like his prayers have been heard a bit, because.
Well, I mean, there's always been this idea in psychology and things as well that as a man you have male and female characteristics, anyways, as does a woman. So there's characteristics just as much as anatomical kind of differences and stuff. Let's leave that one there, for God's sake. We'll be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble anyway, but anyway, carry on. And he also, there's a notice.
I love it all, Paul.
Sorry?
I love it all. Now, can I mention something else?
Yes.
There was a little footnote that we should have read right at the beginning.
Yes.
But we seem to be skipping it.
Well, go on. Well, I was about to come to the footnote, but anyway.
You want me? Well, but then we just get to it later. I don't mean to stress you out.
I was going to mention the footnote. Okay. So this is when Crowley sort of sticks some jokes in here, basically. It says, note that the fall, in quotes, is derived from follis, a windbag. Even etymology gives the attribution to air. Also, to puff out the cheeks is a gesture implying readiness to create in the sign language of Naples. I haven't been to Naples. It could be the Naples arrangement here we're talking about. So if there's some Neapolitans amongst us who can tell us that is a readiness to create. And also, we can also go as well. The
raspberry.
Yes. So this, which is justified because then they had the nodes, and it is by biology. Yes, we got into this one already, haven't we, Bart? So yes. He says the fertilized ovum is sexually neutral.
Here we have it.
Yes, it is only some unknown determinant in the course of development which decides the issue. And of course, that at the time of writing, I don't think they really knew about genetics, did they? As such, they didn't, you know. So he's kind of.
No, I heard this is true though. In the beginning, a fetus, there is a stage where it's already a fertilized. How do you call it? But it doesn't have a gender yet.
Yes, that's right. It just divides, doesn't it?
Jamie Lee Curtis. What was it? Jamie Lee Curtis was when she was born. She was both sides, I believe, and they had to decide there and then whether she was going to be a boy or a girl.
I don't know.
She obviously chose girl, and she chose good because she's a pretty lady. She was a pretty lady.
Good actress, yeah. Quite funny as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So we've gone from this duality stuff in terms of the universe and the element air, which is a dual kind of element, even though it's in the trinity of the mother letters. And then we end up with this final paragraph for now, because I think we all need to lie down after all of this. It is necessary to acclimatize oneself to this, at first sight, strange idea. It's hard to read this stuff out loud. As soon as one has made up one's mind to consider the feminine aspect of things, the masculine element should immediately appear in the same flash of thought to counterbalance it. Crowley discusses this a lot in the Magus card as well. There's a lot of gender politics going on in the world at the moment, and I've run out, I can't remember the number of variations there are at the moment. Suffice to say, I'm old and confused, and I think Bart is as well on this one. So we're not going to go there.
I'm old-fashioned. I mean, be careful, Ted, don't get me. I love everyone, eh?
Yeah. It's
old-fashioned.
Yeah. So this system of counterbalancing, which is what he does in the Fall card, because we had a problem of figuring out whether some aspects were really fire or water, and they're done in a way that we could never quite determine which was which. And this is the deliberate policy, because he's doing this duality, flipping things over. He gives you the maximum energy of the two things, and they counterchange. And it's a very alchemical thing that's going on there. Yes, Bart.
This famous quote of his here about, what is it? What is it? The beginning of wisdom is to counterbalance each thought with its exact opposite.
Yes.
It's basically, he repeats the same concept here again.
Many times. Many times.
He has mentioned here as well, I've already said this to you, I find this quite peculiar. The first element is air.
Yes.
You would expect it to be fire, but it's not. It's air.
I know.
I find that.
That's air comes first, and then fire and water. This is the way it works.
Yeah.
Because the Tetragrammaton, which is what we're talking about, is the next section, which we'll do in another video. So then he says, the same flash of thought is counterbalanced. Okay. Then it says, this identification is complete in itself, philosophically speaking. It is only later that one must consider the question of the result of formulating zero as +1 plus -1. The result of doing so is to formulate the idea of the Tetragrammaton. So it's the annihilation of opposites, the transposition of all these things that there is a male and female, but they can switch around. It's all very fluid.
It is the equation of the universe.
Yes, in the idea of the Tetragrammaton. So there we are. So what have you learned, Bart? This stuff is deep.
That we are very bad in planning how we're going to do our videos, because we said we were going to do a lot more than we actually did, but it's enough. It is.
Yeah. This is Crowley's entire philosophy in that card, in the description of the previous video, and in what we have just discussed here. And this is less than 1/10 of Crowley's thing on the full.
Yes, it is.
So we'll have a bash at the next part in another video, but we might well do another video on something else in the meantime, because we're like that, and and why not? So I hope that's, if you have any questions, put them down there. Join our Facebook groups, give us some likes, subscribe. If you want a tarot reading, you can visit me on Brighton Seafront, or you can do a Zoom session or something like that. And hopefully we will convene on the next one, which will be the Tetragrammaton, which is a whole different...
Or the Heart of the Master, or the Twins.
Yeah, we've got all these things to come yet. We're just starting the journey. Do some study. Come to your own conclusions on all of this stuff as well. We don't claim to have got it right. It's all work in progress with this stuff. Constantly changes. But have fun, do some tarot readings, get in contact, and we'll see you soon. Bye.